Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Regina Young and the Boys Resource Center. So we are on our next clip, and we're talking about Donald Trump. Does he have a chance of being reelected? Especially now that um, Obama has informed everybody that he supports Joe Biden. And now that Joe Biden and the other guy, which is Mr. Sanders, are talking together, um, and Sandra actually had all the young African American voters on his side. Is that going to persuade people to vote for Joe Biden now? Will Joe Biden and Sandra's team up and work some kind of deal out so they both end up in the White House? This is what they're saying. And will Donald Trump lose in 2021? Meaning he won't be president.
To the health and the economy of this country, but also really giving a nod to Bernie Sanders and his message about big structural change. I mean, the interesting piece of all of this, Judy, to me, is that we had a campaign where this debate about making big structural change or kind of staying the course, staying in sort of the status quo were the two poles. And now it's not the candidates that have really upended life as we know it or made big structural change. It's this coronavirus that's actually done it. And the idea that we're going to go back to quote unquote normal seems really unlikely.
And it also looks.
You're not going to go back to normal after the coronavirus. It's going to take time. A lot of time.
New reality,
the world's going to have to recover. That's what people are not talking about.
New relationship.
Yeah, they are forming task forces to talk about policy and ways that maybe former Vice President Biden could move closer to where Bernie Sanders is on various policy issues. This is all about trying to figure out how Joe Biden can win over Bernie Sanders' support, which is going to be critically important. You know, one thing is they have more time this time around. Sanders didn't endorse Hillary Clinton until July. And then almost immediately after that, the first tranche of WikiLeaks came out and completely undermined the efforts to repair that relationship between Sanders supporters and Hillary Clinton, the more establishment Democrat. Who knows what might lay ahead, but certainly there's more time for them to work on coming together and winning over Sanders supporters.
And to Amy, I want to ask you about that. I mean, does it look like Sanders supporters are going to go along with this? Some of them are being very vocal right now and saying that's not what they want. We don't know what percentage they make up of the whole Bernie Sanders crowd, but they're not being quiet.
He said a mouth says anything.
We're going to have to see as we move through this campaign just what kind of support Joe Biden's getting from younger voters, especially younger voters of color who have been very strong Sanders supporters and who Joe Biden had a really difficult time winning over in the primary. So that's going to be important to watch. But I do think that, 2016, though it wasn't that long ago, it really was an entirely different world we were looking at in 2016, not just because it was a pre-COVID-19 world, but because Donald Trump was not the president. He is now the sitting president. It's a very different calculation for Democratic voters or for Bernie Sanders voters on who they're going to support today than in 2016 when the concept of Donald Trump being president was just that, a concept.
They thought it was a joke.
Meantime,
but he
Tam,
became president.
As we've been hearing earlier in the program, these criticisms of the Trump administration for not acting soon enough, as they were being urged to do reportedly on the coronavirus. How much, is it too early to know how much of an effect that's going to have on this camp?
I think the fact that Donald Trump and them did not go public and tell people about this and they had the information to inform the citizens and the people that voted him in, I think that that's going to hurt him in a lot of factors. Whether this lady agrees next or not, I think that it's going to hurt him. Because I am a citizen, I'm a voter, and I know that if you have information about me, I need to know about, and you choose to keep that information away from me, that means like you're playing God. You're playing with my life. You're playing with my kids' life. You're playing with my family's life. You're playing with my loved ones. And a lot of people might look at it as if he had did what he did or said what he was supposed to said, And this goes for governors too. A lot of people, loved ones, might still been here if they had the opportunity to prepare for this coronavirus before it came out here. Meaning a lot of people might been able to prepare and it wouldn't have spread that much, or the loved one wouldn't have got it. Nursing homes would have been able to prepare better. There would have been more gloves. The nurses wouldn't be wearing trash bags. There's a lot of things that would have been differently had more people knew. But then in the medical field, a lot of people did know, but the staff didn't know in January. So there's enough of blame to go around everywhere. But the question is, who do you really, really blame? Who's really at fault?
Okay.
Well, you can tell how much the president is worried about it by how much the president responded in that briefing today.
He should be worried.
I mean, he basically took that briefing and for probably 30 minutes did what amounted to an effort to do a point-by-point refutation of the New York Times article, an effort to boost his reputation and to not allow that narrative to take hold, because if it can take hold, then he has a problem. The coronavirus, how he handles it, and how many deaths there are, and what the economic damage is.
I just said that.
That is going to determine how people perceive the success or failure of his presidency. And pretty much anything that happened before this year doesn't matter.
I just said that. The sad part is this incident is going to determine whether he gets reelected or not. And I can't say who I would vote for right now, because I truly don't know without seeing who all is going to be in office or who the choices are. But whenever you have information that is about me or my family and you put our life at danger, that's something I don't take, for funny. It's not a joke. And I'm looking at a lot of people that were talking about their loved ones died alone because they could not go see them because they were trapped, or if they went out, they would be arrested. These people knew this, could have prevented a lot of this, and didn't say nothing because they had the information in December. And then in January, they had the information. But they choose not to tell the public until late February when it's already spreading. And before you know it, March is everywhere. So who's at fault? Do you think he's going to get re-voted in? And if you voted for him, will you re-vote for him? Or will you change up? I want to know. I want you to comment. I want you to share. I want you to tell me what you think.
Already the administration is trying to turn their criticism in the other direction, putting the blame on Democrats for spending too much time on impeachment. Is this going to be something that just we watch the two sides slog their way through?
Yes, and I think that Tam's right. This is a referendum on Donald Trump and how he reacted to this. Look, governments very rarely do a good job of being proactive. They're much better at being reactive. So the fight's over. Should the administration have done more before, like last year or the year before? I don't know if those are as important as the reactive piece and how quickly and how efficiently and effectively they reacted. And that's where the president was pushing back today, saying, I did it as quickly as possible, even as the New York Times reports that the month of February was essentially wasted. Look, voters are going to have to make this choice, and we are going to know a whole lot more in November about the damage that this virus has done to the health of Americans and to the economy, and whether Donald Trump is seen as effective in moving us forward. But as we're seeing in the polls, Judy, his approval rating is now basically back to where it's always been. Voters remain as divided as ever about Donald Trump.
Well, all these questions being asked are...
Well, that's the question. You won't know much until November, but however, November is the day that you have to make the decision. So, you're going to have to keep reading and watching, and the bottom line is, if you had a loved one that died because of coronavirus, who are you going to blame? Are you going to blame the governor? Are you going to blame Donald Trump? Are you going to blame the WHO? Are you going to blame the Controlled Disease Department? Who are you going to blame? Who's at fault? I want you to tell me who you think is at fault for the coronavirus spreading as fast as it did. And could they have stopped it, and what could they have done? Regina Young and the Zy Boys, comment below. Have a great day and be safe and stay home.